Ladies and gentlemen, I came to ask you a simple but serious question today. How long will you let yesterday's pain define today's progress? How long will you let what they said, what they did, what you lost, or what you regret hold you back from what God has in store for you? Some of us have been carrying the chains of the past so long that we've mistaken them for jewelry. We've gotten comfortable in our captivity. But let me tell you something. Your past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. The past has a way of shaping us, molding us, and teaching us lessons that prepare us for the future. But while the past is meant to be a reference point, it was never meant to be a place of residence. Too many people are living in a time that no longer exists, allowing what was to dictate what is. They carry the weight of past mistakes, past failures, past hurts, and past disappointments, as if these things have the authority to define their identity. They don't realize that the past is not a life sentence. It is simply a classroom, a place to learn, grow, and move forward. Think about a rearview mirror in a car. It serves a purpose. It allows you to glance back, to see where you've been, to make adjustments if necessary. But no driver in their right mind stares at the rearview mirror while trying to move forward. That's a guaranteed way to crash. The windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason, because where you're going is far more important than where you've been. Yet too many people are fixated on their past, replaying old wounds, rehearsing old conversations, and reliving past pain as if they can change what happened. But no amount of worry, regret, or shame can rewrite history. The only thing you can change is how you respond moving forward. Some people struggle with this because they feel like their past disqualifies them. They look at their mistakes and assume that they are beyond redemption. But God never consults your past to determine your future. He specializes in using broken people, in rewriting stories, and in turning pain into purpose. The Bible is filled with people who had messy past, but were still used by God in mighty ways. Moses was a murderer before he became a deliverer. David committed adultery before he became a man after God's own heart. Paul persecuted Christians before he became the greatest apostle of the New Testament. If God could transform them, what makes you think he can't do the same for you? But here's the problem. Many people choose to remain stuck. They have become so familiar with their past struggles that they don't know how to function without them. It has become part of their identity. Instead of seeing themselves as victorious, they still see themselves as victims. Instead of walking in freedom, they stay bound by chains that Jesus already broke. It's like a prisoner being released from jail, but refusing to walk out of the cell because they have lived there so long that they don't know what freedom feels like. But God is calling you to more. He is calling you to release the past, to lay down the burdens you were never meant to carry, and to walk boldly into the future he has prepared for you. Holding on to the past is like trying to run a race with weights strapped to your feet. You might be moving, but you won't get very far. The longer you hold on to past failures, the longer you delay what God has for you. The longer you cling to past wounds, the longer you keep yourself from healing. The longer you live in regret, the more you rob yourself of joy in the present. God's plan for you is not behind you, it's ahead of you. He has new opportunities, new blessings, new doors that are waiting to be opened. But you will never be able to step into them if you are still holding on to yesterday. The past is a reference point, but it should never be your home. It's time to let go, to trust that what's ahead is greater than what's behind, and to finally move forward into the life God has called you to live. The enemy is a master manipulator. He doesn't need to destroy you outright. He just needs to keep you stuck. One of his greatest weapons is using your history against you. He knows that if he can keep you focused on your past, you will never walk fully into your destiny. He will remind you of your worst mistakes, your biggest failures, and your deepest wounds to convince you that you are not worthy of God's best. If he can keep you in a cycle of guilt, shame, and regret, he can make sure you never move forward. Many people don't realize they are under spiritual attack because the enemy doesn't always come in obvious ways. He doesn't have to show up as a crisis or catastrophe. Sometimes he just whispers lies in your mind. He tells you that because you failed before, you will always be a failure. He tells you that because someone walked out on you, you will never be truly loved. He tells you that because you made a mistake, you are forever disqualified from God's grace. And if you believe those lies, you will start living as if they are true. The problem is that too many people have accepted their past as their permanent identity. They have allowed what happened to them to define them. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, they say, I am a mistake. Instead of saying, I was hurt, they say, I am broken beyond repair. Instead of saying, I was rejected, they say, I am unlovable. When you internalize past experiences as your identity, you become a prisoner of what was, unable to step into what could be. But let me remind you of something powerful. Your history does not determine your destiny. What you have done, what has been done to you, or what you have been through does not have the final say over your life. Only God has that authority. The enemy may try to use your past to define you, but God wants to use it to refine you. The very thing the devil wants to use against you is often the very thing God will use for your testimony. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. If anyone had a reason to be bitter about his past, it was him. But Joseph refused to let his past dictate his future. He understood that what others meant for evil, God could turn for good because he refused to let his history block his destiny. God elevated him from the prison to the palace. The same is true for you. The enemy wants you stuck in what happened, but God wants to set you free. The enemy wants you to live in regret, but God wants you to live in restoration. The enemy wants you to believe that your best days are behind you, but God says that your best is yet to come. The only way to step into that future is to stop allowing your past to define your identity. One of the biggest lies the enemy tells people is that their past disqualifies them from God's plan. But the truth is, God has always used imperfect people for his perfect purposes. Moses had a past. David had a past. Paul had a past. Yet they didn't let their past stop them from fulfilling their purpose. The same God who redeemed them. The key is to recognize the enemy's tactics and refuse to believe his lies. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, focus on what God is making right. Instead of letting the past be a prison, let it be a lesson. Instead of allowing history to block your destiny, surrender it to God and step into the future he has prepared for you. Your focus determines your future. Where you set your eyes, your thoughts, and your energy will shape the direction of your life. If you spend all your time looking back at what was, you will never be able to move forward into what could be. Too many people are stuck not because God isn't leading them, but because they are too busy looking in the wrong direction. They are focused on the pain of the past, the regrets of yesterday, and the things they cannot change, rather than fixing their eyes on what God has ahead. The Apostle Paul understood this principle when he wrote in Philippians 3:13, forgetting what is behind and reaching forward to what is ahead, I press on toward the goal. Paul knew that his past, filled with mistakes and failures, could have held him back. He had persecuted Christians before his radical encounter with Jesus. If anyone had a reason to dwell on the past, it was him. But he made a decision. He chose to let go of what was. He refused to let his past define his future. The truth is, whatever you focus on will shape your reality. If you keep focusing on past failures, you will convince yourself that you are a failure. If you keep meditating on old wounds, you will remain stuck in a cycle of pain. If you constantly think about what didn't work out, you will struggle to believe that anything good is ahead. The enemy knows this, which is why he constantly tries to distract you with thoughts of the past. He wants you looking backward because he knows that as long as you do, you will never walk into your destiny. But God calls you to focus forward. He calls you to set your mind on things above, to fix your eyes on Jesus, and to trust that he is leading you into something greater. Think about driving a car. The moment you take your eyes off the road ahead and start looking in the rearview mirror, you put yourself in danger. You risk missing opportunities, making wrong turns, or even crashing. The same principle applies to life. When you are too focused on the past, you miss the opportunities God is putting right in front of you. Some people struggle with this because they believe that letting go of the past means pretending it never happened. That's not the case. Letting go doesn't mean you ignore your history. It means you refuse to let it control you. It means you learn from it, grow from it, and allow God to use it for your good. It means you acknowledge what happened, but you refuse to let it define where you are going. God is always calling his people forward. In Isaiah 43:19, he says, behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? That means God is moving, but the question is, are you paying attention? Are you perceiving what he is doing, or are you too distracted by the past to recognize the new doors he is opening? Your future is too valuable to be wasted on looking backward. There is too much ahead of you, too much God wants to do in you and through you for you to be stuck in what was. Every moment you spend dwelling on the past is a moment stolen from your destiny. The key is to shift your focus. Stop looking at what you lost and start looking at what God is restoring. Stop dwelling on what went wrong and start believing in what God is making right. The direction of your focus determines the direction of your life. If you want to step into all that God has for you, you must make a choice. Stop looking back and start moving forward. God is always working, always moving, always creating something new. But the question is, can you see it? Can you recognize what he's doing in your life, or are you so consumed by what was that you can't perceive what is? Many people stay stuck in the past because they believe their best days are behind them. They hold on to old memories, past achievements, or even past pain, thinking that nothing greater can come. But God has made it clear. He is doing a new thing. Isaiah 43:19 says, behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Now it springs forth. Do you not see it? That verse isn't just a nice phrase. It's a divine reality. God is always at work, but if you're too focused on the past, you will miss the new thing he is bringing into your life. You can't walk into new opportunities while holding on to old disappointments. You can't embrace new blessings while clinging to old burdens. At some point, you have to make a decision. Do you trust that God's plan for your future is greater than the pain of your past. The reason some people struggle to move forward is that they have become attached to their past. They have carried their wounds for so long that they don't know who they are without them. They have replayed their mistakes so often that they can't imagine a life where they're not defined by them. But God never intended for you to live in a cycle of regret. He didn't design you to stay trapped in yesterday when He has something greater waiting for you today. One of the biggest obstacles to seeing the new thing God is doing is a mindset that refuses to change. If you keep thinking the same way, you will keep living the same way. Transformation starts in your mind. Romans 12:2 tells us, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That means you have to let go of old patterns, old thoughts, and old ways of seeing yourself so that you can embrace what God is doing now. Think about the Israelites in the wilderness. God had delivered them from slavery in Egypt, but their mindset was still trapped in their past. Every time they faced a challenge, they longed to go back to what was familiar, even if it meant returning to bondage. They couldn't perceive the new thing God was doing because they were too attached to their old way of thinking. As a result, an entire generation missed out on the promised land. The same danger exists today. When you refuse to let go of the past, you risk missing out on the future God has prepared for you. When you hold on to bitterness, you block the blessing. When you stay focused on who hurt you, you miss who God has sent to heal you. When you dwell on your failures, you fail to see how God can use them for your growth. But when you open your heart to the new thing God is doing, everything changes. Suddenly, what seemed like an ending becomes a new beginning. What looked like a setback becomes a setup for something greater. What felt like a loss turns into a lesson that propels you into your purpose. God is not done with you. He has new doors to open, new opportunities to reveal, and new blessings to pour into your life. But you have to perceive it. You have to shift your focus from what was to what is and what is to come. You have to stop mourning over what God has already moved on from. If He is doing a new thing, it means He is calling you forward. It means He is asking you to trust Him for greater. The question is, are you ready to receive it? Or are you too busy holding on to the past to recognize the future He has placed before you? But here's the truth. God will not force you to move forward. He will not drag you into your purpose while you are still clinging to your past. That's a choice only you can make. He gives you the opportunity to release, but if you refuse to open your hands, you will never be able to receive what He has for you. Imagine trying to carry a new blessing while your hands are still full of old baggage. It didn't work. The weight of yesterday will always limit your ability to step into tomorrow. Think about Lot's wife in Genesis 19 when God was rescuing Lot and his family from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. He gave them a simple command: don't look back. Yet as they were escaping, Lot's wife turned around, and in that moment, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Why? Because she was more attached to her past than she was to her future. Her longing for what was kept her from stepping into what could be. She couldn't embrace her deliverance because her heart was still tied to what God was trying to pull her away from. Many people do the same thing today. They say they want to move forward, but they keep looking back. They say they want healing, but they refuse to release their hurt. They say they want a fresh start, but they hold on to old mindsets. And as a result, they stay stuck in the same cycles, repeating the same mistakes, dealing with the same struggles, because they haven't yet made the decision to fully let go. Letting go doesn't mean the past didn't happen. It doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It doesn't mean you ignore what you've been through. It simply means you refuse to let it control your future. It means you choose to stop living in regret and start living in faith. It means you recognize that God's plans are bigger than your past, and you trust him enough to move forward. Some people are waiting for closure before they let go. They're waiting for an apology, for an explanation, for a moment that makes everything make sense. But the truth is, closure isn't always about getting answers. It's about making a decision. You may never get the apology. You may never get the explanation, but you can still choose to be free. You can still decide that your future is too valuable to be held hostage by what didn't work out. God is calling you higher. He is calling you into new blessings, new opportunities, and new levels of faith. But he won't force you to step into it. He won't drag you out of your comfort zone. He won't pry the past out of your hands. That's your responsibility. And the moment you finally decide to release what was, you'll realize that God has been waiting all along to take you into something greater. Letting go is not losing, it's gaining freedom, peace, and the ability to finally move forward into the life God has called you to live. There comes a time when you must decide that your future is more important than your past. You cannot move forward while still chained to what was. The past may have shaped you, but it was never meant to define you. God has more for you, but he will not force you to walk into it. You must make the choice to step out of yesterday and into the future he has prepared for you. Too many people remain in a cycle of stagnation because they have become comfortable in their dysfunction. They are used to their pain, so they carry it like a badge of honor. They are familiar with their struggles, so they hold on to them instead of releasing them to God. But being familiar with something does not mean it is good for you. Just because you have lived in a certain mindset, a certain pain, or a certain struggle for a long time does not mean you were meant to stay there. Look at the man at the pool of Bethesda in John 5. He had been paralyzed for 38 years lying by the water, waiting for a miracle. When Jesus saw him, he asked a powerful question. Do you want to be made well? At first, the question seems unnecessary. Of course, the man wanted to be healed, but Jesus knew something deeper. He knew that sometimes people become so used to their condition that they no longer expect change. They become so accustomed to their brokenness that they can't even imagine wholeness. Jesus wasn't just asking the man if he wanted healing. He was asking if he was ready for a new life. Because healing would mean change. It would mean no longer lying by the pool, no longer depending on others, no longer living in the same familiar place. And for some people, even though they say they want to move forward, they aren't truly ready to let go of the things they've known. This is where many people get stuck. They say they want better, but they are afraid of what better requires. They want to be free, but they have built their identity around their struggles. They want to grow, but they don't want to leave behind the habits, the relationships, or the mindsets that keep them bound. And as long as they refuse to release those things, they will never step into the newness God has for them. God never calls people to stay the same. He is always calling his children higher, always stretching them into something greater. But moving forward requires a willingness to let go of the familiar. It means trusting God even when you don't have all the answers. It means stepping out in faith even when you don't know what's ahead. It means believing that his plan for your life is better than anything you're leaving behind. One of the enemy's greatest tricks is to convince you that what you lost was the best you ever have. He wants you to believe that your past was better than your future so that you will settle where you are instead of pressing into what's next. But that is a lie. God never leads you backward. He always leads you forward. The best is not behind you. The best is what he has prepared ahead of you. But to receive it, you must make a decision. You must decide that your destiny is more important than your history. You must decide that your faith is greater than your fear. You must decide that what God has for you is worth more than what you are leaving behind. And when you finally make that choice, when you finally let go of the past, you will discover the freedom, the purpose, and the abundant life that God has been waiting for you to step into.